The exhibition's called Eric Gill, the Body. A huge amount of Gill's work, whether that's sculpture, wood engravings, drawings, is about the body, and we didn't want to shy away from that or dress it up in any way. There hadn't really been a museum that really engaged with a subject like this in the way that we wanted to do. To talk with the people that needed to be talked to and putting together an exhibition where that is a really important part of the narrative. And we also started conversations with charities who work with people who have been abused, wondering whether they were going to be interested in this. But with the knowledge that we were approaching it partly because museums are places where open, honest, thoughtful discussions can happen. He's in those major collections like the Tate and the V&A and across America, and those museums will probably just show the work. But Ditchling Museum of Art and Craft isn't an art gallery. It's a museum about people who lived in a place, who worked as part of a community, making work together. We don't just show the work, we show how the work was made, where it was made. And so there is the story of the family. And it felt, to me, really a very clear omission if we were not talking about the fact that Gill abused those two daughters, particularly when showing a work which depicts them. Each of these works in the exhibition more or less pulls you towards the biography. I think there's much more to them, and I think you need to know about the biography and bring that to your kind of reading of the work. I would totally understand those people who say those works of the daughters are difficult. Not all art is lovely, not all art is something to enjoy. Art can be difficult, art can be challenging. It felt important to me that we showed the beauty and the potency of when Gill is depicting sexual encounters and relationships. I remember when Cathie was visiting the museum and we had a nude girl with hair in the centre of the introduction gallery, and Cathie just showed me an image of Twinkle and said, what about if she was there? And it just felt like this kind of really important moment of saying, actually, we're kind of maybe taking back from Gill how you depict young girls. This is a female artist depicting women as she wants to do, not Gill, the artist.
Obviously, because of the history of Eric Gill's abuse of his two daughters, his work has been, I think, very overshadowed by his biography. And this show attempts to readdress that balance. And it's quite brave in that we are talking about the work very formally. We're asking the audience to really look at the work. At the same time, we're absolutely talking about the abuse very honestly as well. We're not trying to hide anything or minimise his behaviour, but we are saying he's an extraordinary artist. And I think that things like obsession and passion are central to art and art making. And when you hear Eric Gill talking about the first body that he ever carved in stone, you're very close to every artist's drive when they're making their work. I've installed this quite huge collection of sculpted heads that I've made in amongst the quite ambiguous doll form heads are 5 busts of Petra, and she's named, and these busts are a direct copy from the doll, of the doll's head, and they're changed from a doll object they've turned into a sculpture, so they've become more important. But she is in amongst all these other things, and so as we look across this quite overwhelming cabinet, it's quite overpowering. We see in every shelf as we pick our way through the contents, Petra reappears. In a way, like as we pick our way through the show, as we look at Eric Gill's work, we are reminded again and again of his biography. So that's what her presence in the cabinet does. And I've painted each bust in a different way. And this one here is decorated by my 11-year-old daughter in felt tip. Which again references the original object, the Petra doll. You can see on it where she's defaced it or put makeup on it, and I love that. You know, everybody remembers that, doing that to their doll, so that's a kind of direct reference to that. So seeing this piece, the bronze Twinkle, in physical relation to the doll, I think is incredibly exciting, and it feels to me like Twinkle has found her natural home. It's like she was meant to be here.
I feel like we don't have a choice but to do this exhibition. We are custodians of a growing collection of his work. We have a big archive of his papers, we have lots of his work, and we can't ignore that. We have a duty to show that work. We have a duty to interpret that work, and that includes telling the difficult parts of the biography, the unpleasant parts of the biography, when it's relevant to the work.